Hi,
Hi,
Tzili.
everybody. Hi, Tzip.
Hi,
Hi,
look who,
Uri
great guest.
Rosenwaks
Hi.
from Israel.
Hi.
Uri is a great documentary filmmaker, and he just had a 4-chapter series in Israel about the Israeli myths.
Yeah, but the range of his documentaries, not talking that he was also one of the main people in the best documentary show in Israel, which called Facts, Uvda, right? But the
A
range
long time ago.
it doesn't matter, but the range of his documentaries which going, in like what's happening in underprivileged city like Lod, which it's a mixed city, what the Rambam meant for us or for the people, how a philosopher and I think a great man like Leibovich is he still relevant or not? I mean, it's something else. And
Uri is
now
very
it's about
gutsy,
very gutsy.
very gutsy, and is touching the most painful angles in the Israeli culture, society, problems,
Right.
one film after another.
And I admire you because for me, I take the easy way. I'm intrigued by something. I pick up a character, and through the character, I'm kind of looking, to the things that I'm going to ask. He is doing the hard work. He's going into archival footage, and he has to know everything that happened in terms of, let's say, we'll talk in a minute about the myth, everything which he could encompass, about the Rambam or about Leibovich. It's a lot of it's research. So I admire him.
I want to ask you something. It just happened accidentally that you showed the series at the time of the revolution in Israel, and it's really has a very different impact, I think, now looking back, looking forward. How do you feel about it, about the timing?
Well, it's a tricky question because on one hand, people said, "Wow, it's so relevant and so on the spot, like to air it on in these days and times." On the other hand, I felt that maybe it has been a bit left out because everybody's on the street. But it turned out that it was people were on the street and managed to see it too, and it had some meaning. But it's but people are preoccupied with other things. But still, it got considering the time factor and the time that it was aired, it got very good comments and reviews and some discourse and it's you talked before about the hard work I do. It's such a privilege to be able to work in something you like. I mean, it's if you look at the world with our 9 billion inhabitants of this world, I don't know if even a quarter of half a billion people are entitled to work in something that interests them, get up in the morning and go to work in something they like to do. So I just see it as a privilege. I mean,
Of course, it's privilege. I
and
agree with you. But
it's
just
hard.
listen, look at the people on the streets. You screen myth, and actually what they're trying to reclaim in some, to recapture and get back is including some myth, like that we are
Yes.
a society of solidarity, that we are a democracy, that a lot of myths are including.
Yes. Well, I said in a previous interview that if somebody watches the 4 chapters of my new series, the Myth Machine, uh, he can get some kind of explanation to what's happening now, because in the deep sense, this series asks the question: who is telling the story? Who is decided what is a myth, what is forgotten, what is not forgotten? Who are our heroes? How are they shaped? Who is allowed to tell the story? And this and the things that we're going through these days in Israel are a collision of all these things together. I mean, this reclaiming of the Israeli flag, of the anthem, of is something that was really the liberal side of Israel tried to distance itself from it for a long time, and suddenly it happened in a different way. It didn't. This reclaiming hasn't been something like it still denies talking about the occupation. It denies about talking about
Israeli arts.
equality in Israeli society, but still it's fascinating. This reclaiming is fascinating. I think that this reform, the best thing that this reform did was to unite the liberal camp in Israel after it was like it was on the floor after the last election. Nobody thought that it would rise after this, and suddenly in 3 months, this thing happened that is much wider than the typical liberal left, the Tel Avivian
Oh yeah.
people. So that's really interesting. But I can say that I'm really happy that I managed to finish my series and air it before all this thing blew up, because I don't know if I would be now in the middle of the editing and this thing would have erupted. It's a game changer. It's you don't experience a lot of times in your life the feeling that you're in the midst of history. And what happened 2 weeks ago on Sunday night in Ayalon after Netanyahu sacked the defense minister Gallant, and suddenly thousands of people, tens of thousands of people spontaneously, me included, went out of their home with nobody calling them and just blocked the whole country. And it was really, you feel in Hebrew we say you feel the wings of history beating, and that was a scene that anybody who was there will never forget it.
Yeah, but don't forget, it's not a myth. We always trusted the defense minister. I want to, we cannot go.
That's a kind of myth.
But I grew up, of course, thinking that Dover Tzahal, the military spokesman, always tell us the truth. Well, it was broken to me. It really was broken, but it didn't break my trust. So when Bibi goes and want to fire Gallant, the Minister of Defense, this is something that it's not only destroying a myth, but it's like all our being tell us this is wrong.
But you know that as in our short history as a country, you're able to push so many facts, and you cannot remember everything. I mean, when you watch it, you remind us this and this and this and this and this and that. And I said, oh, that took place and that took place and that took place. And it's really a run through of so many things that were the buildup of the country. And I think that now it's like the roof fell off the house and everything jumped out. All the demons, that you were talking about. It shook up the source and the roots and the ground that we were walking on, and it's really like it feels that you need to rethink, reborn, rearrange, rewrite the whole new situation.
I'm not sure you're right. When I say we would like to reclaim,
I'm not sure too.
We want to reclaim it now on the street, the Megillat Ha'atzmaut, the Bill of Rights of Israel. Everybody who was on the street. Everybody who was on the street would like the Bill of Rights of Israel, Megillat Ha'atzmaut, what the country was built on, to be there, and not even to contest it. I think it's
But you're talking about our people.
On the street, it's 500,000 people.
Okay, but
no, I think I look at it differently. First of all, when you talk about the series, about the events, first of all, when I saw that, the approach by the public television, they wanted to do something for 75 years, which is coming in 2 weeks or so. And I asked myself, how can I make a project that I won't be a slave of chronology? I mean, that I'll have to go from fact to fact to fact to fact, and it will be just like a warehouse of history. And this invention of telling the story through myths enabled me to go back and forth, to make things that inspire each other, and not be a servant or a slave of the chronology. That's one thing. Another thing that you still see that the myth of the defense of the military of the IDF is the most prevailing myth in the Israeli story. I mean, Bibi firing the defense minister, that drew the line. People came out, and even Likud people and even right-wing people, because that is our main myth. Our main myth lies
Whole Israeli culture is around the military.
Is around the militaristic or our defense or whatever. This is the main myth that guides us. And like you see in the chapter that deals with the military, you could see Uri Novak, who was the general manager of Shobrim Shtika. She says, you can touch everything, you can't touch the army. The army is holy. And the minute you talk against the army, it's untouchable. And the minute you talk against the army, in English, for instance, like Breaking the Silence did, you're considered a traitor even by left-wing people. So that is a very, very central sentiment that is now evolving or changing. I know all these pilots who say they're going to refuse to serve if the country becomes anti-democratic. All these soldiers who signed, this is something that has never been heard of. I mean, there were refusings in the past, not too many, about the occupation, about other things, but never before has this thing happened. And that's a game changer, really. And the question is, what will happen in a year from now? Where will we be? Either are we going to, if this thing just dies away in certain ways and there'll be something or some kind of compromise, will it be forgotten and we'll just go on with our lives? Or are we at this point that everything is really going to change and there's going to be a new contract between the people of Israel and
but that's what I mean by rewrite and rebuild the whole.
But I'm not sure it will happen. But I think that the liberal camp in Israel is starting to think differently in some way. But you have to acknowledge that all these people came, including me, even though I participated in many demonstrations, but the majority of the people who are now going out into the street every week, week after week, even twice or three times a week, leaving their jobs, they didn't do it for 50 years of occupation. And we're talking about a Jewish and democratic state, that is another myth. And it's never been really democratic here. And it's always this balance, trying to maintain the balance between Judaism, between Jewish and democratic. That is the principal challenge of the state of Israel. It's not perfect. It's not a perfect democracy. And it still wants to be Jewish or Jewish heritage. And this tension between Jewish and democratic, it's like Leibovich said that the main thing of
Professor
a religious people, Professor Yeshayahu Leibovich says, that a man has to overcome himself and get up every morning and go and pray. That's the main. He saw it as the ideal of religious Jews. And this principle of Jewish and democratic is the same. It's an everlasting challenge. We didn't have a perfect state till now. We had a lot of problems, all which you can see in the series. Is it a democracy for everybody? Is everybody entitled to equality in the state? What happened with our Palestinian citizens? Right. What happens with the Eastern Jews and their feelings? What happens with Ethiopian Jews or Russian Jews? And something basically dropped because it's the first time that the liberal camp in Israel, the privileged people in Israel, felt that their life was under threat.
Right.
And the question is that with this acknowledgement, what will happen now? Will there be a new contract drafted between the Israelis and the state? Will people be willing to continue to serve in the army while they know that a large group of Israeli citizens don't take part in that? The ultra-Orthodox.
They accepted it, but now we have those extremists like Ben. If we cannot make a contract with the government when people like Ben, the really extreme right, like Ben Gvir and Smo, they will not let the government do a new contract. They will not let it. It's okay. We can live with those guys not going to the army. They can go and just go and make money.
I'm not sure. No, because, the Israeli liberals are saying, listen, for one thing, we're going to the army. For another thing, we're working, right, and we're paying, and we're keeping on our shoulder. We're taking on our shoulder a population who sees poverty as a idealistic way of life. Why should we carry them on our own? Now, it's a very complex topics, but these are the things that maybe now after this dies or this conflict dies, and I'm quite sure there'll be an election and maybe a different force
Oh, you
will
think so?
come to power in his.
But Uri, the source of the whole argument and the war in the streets is basically Netanyahu's trial. So, and all these forces that are in the government, he holds them. No. That's the main. That's how it started, and that's how it goes. And basically, all the relations that he has with these extreme people in the government is just to protect himself. So we need to face a lot of problems that anyway we need to face, but it's under his wings all the time. And
I'm not sure. I think
If
that
Gantz will go with them, he will not go with the extreme
no,
right.
first of all, I would say that. I would say that this whole reform, this overhaul, wouldn't have been born if there wasn't a Netanyahu trial. He would have enabled that.
right.
And he's trying to save himself from trial. But what happened since this government embarked on a way that Netanyahu in many ways was kidnapped by these people, and now they're stronger than him. They'll use him. You heard Smotrich, you heard Ben-Gvir. They got a golden opportunity to change the country in a way that he doesn't agree with, but
I know.
he's kidnapped.
Yeah.
He's kidnapped. It wouldn't have come to life if he wasn't on trial. But even if he goes now, there's still quite a few Israelis, about 50% of Israelis, who want to continue in this way of the reform, because this reform has deep roots in the feeling of people who are not from the elite, who feel they're not represented, who feel they don't see their faces in the high courts. They feel they don't have the opportunity like the privileged liberal population have. All these things we talk about in the series.
But these things won't disappear, Uri. And even if he will change certain things and we let it go, it's a mistake, because these things will blow up again and again and again. And we have to find a way how to address it. And it's very, very, very complicated.
You know, we have this
It's very
engineering
complicated.
of the mind.
What happened?
Engineering of the mind. Why don't we start to engineer the minds of a lot of the Likuds who vote for the Likud for all these years and stay poor? They are staying
It's more
really at
complex
the
than
bottom
that.
of society.
I can't, it's more than that, because there's a history to claim for, and there's years that these people were deprived by the left in Israel, and their fathers and their families suffered from the Labor Party. It's not something that it can be taken away, and Bibi knows how to ride on those sentiments. Now, a change is not something that is viable in a short time. You have to really change.
Right.
The mind.
The psyche. Right.
Not the psyche. You have to see that today in Bet She'an and in places like that, in kindergarten, children will get the same education as people get in Tel Aviv. And in Rat and in other places where that will be equality of chance and there will be equality of opportunities, which do not. It doesn't happen because
the health system is not the same.
But the Likud already 35 years or whatever in power.
Yes, but also more than 30. But also, you have to be honest and say that the left wing in Israel, which is made most of the elite, the economic elite and the academic elite and the judicial elite, we all benefited from the Likud because the Likud had a policy of libertarian, like the Kohelet Forum and such, which is for the strong people. And the absurdity is that the people who didn't vote for Netanyahu profited from his mandate, from the years he was in power, and the people who voted for him got fucked. Yeah. And that is the absurd reality. Yeah, and that's the absurd reality. And now you can't talk about mind engineering. Now this thing of this liberal regimes, what's happening? I mean, Israel is one case, but it's not different from what's going on in the United States. No, you can see what
Trump
what's
came to
happening.
power because of all these white men who were marginalized.
Yeah, neoliberalism governments and all the social networks. This is a, we just, we're starting to see how damaging all these things together are. And this is not this populist regimes is not something that is an endemic to Israel. In Israel, we have our extra baggage of the conflict, of immigration, but you see what's happening in America, you see what's happening in Poland, you see what happened in Hungary, in Italy, now it's happening in Finland, what happened in Brazil.
Yes.
It's a global phenomenon. So, and on all these social networks and all these things, these are things that are not going away, and
No.
we don't even have a way. You have Netanyahu's son, a 32-year-old guy who lives with his parents, and he's about controlling the government. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You had a president in the United States. If 20 years ago, if somebody would have told you that Donald Trump would be the president of the United
We'll
States,
laugh at
nobody
you.
would believe. It was only in South Park that he was the president. So
Unfortunately, even
the
the day
world is
before
going
the
crazy.
election, nobody believed.
Well,
Tell me something. Do you believe that shows, programs, documentaries, series that you are doing can change attitudes?
not in a. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, because
So how do you get this inner strength to do this
But
incredible?
I do think that people do pay attention. It takes time to change somebody's ideas, but at least you pay attention. At least you bring an argument and you cannot just dismiss
But
it.
if it doesn't take people somewhere else from where they are now,
it depends. Maybe it can change individuals, but I think first of all you have to see that the for instance, the difference between what I see as a viewer and people with my opinions, for instance, from my circles, see on the television, on the internet, and the things that people from the right wing look at America. I mean, you look at CNN and you look at Fox, two different realities. I mean, most of the people spend their time watching programs that strengthen their own opinions. That's the most crazy things that
it
happened. And
was
in
not like
America,
this 20 years ago. It was
so
not in
in
Israel,
America,
it is. That was not
in
like this.
America,
Now
it's
you have
really,
the 14, you have channel 14, which is Bibi's channel, and you have
yes, but in
newspaper.
America, it's completely like that. I mean, you
Yes.
see CBS, you see NBC, you see only Democrats speaking. You go and see Fox, it's only Republicans and extreme and Trumpists. So the meaning of change, if programs can change, I think they can change individual. I think in this way, maybe documentary has more power than news. But on the other hand, the whole concept of truth is under challenge. You
But
can
in order to be able to change, you need to be a little bit a martyr, because all these, the TV programs, they feed to the audience, they feed to their ideas, they cook more and more and more and more. And I think first of all, of course, because of money, and they need their crowd and they need money. And the other thing is they want to fill the time and they want high ratings. So they change everybody's ideas, but by elevating or bringing people to panels and to talk about things in a way that basically that instead of bringing a different point of view, they make it worse.
Yeah, but what he does, so the networks are actually, it's almost like a propaganda. Everything which is one-sided is propaganda. And documentaries are not supposed to be one-sided. They're supposed to show the complexity of the situation. So I don't know if documentaries are based on the rules of drama, like any drama, that means that in the beginning I can somebody start to see your show completely from a different point of view. And a good documentary, slowly by slowly, they will join you. They will not even feel that they join your narrative, and they will listen at least. At least.
I try to give a diverse screen when I make my documentaries. Try to give all angles of life to the people to speak, not only from one side, from the left or for the right. But and I'm very happy this recent series, my current series, The Myth Machine, is really popular with young people, which is surprising to me. A lot of young people see it, so that's quite nice. But
You think the
again,
Ministry of Education will take it?
no, no way.
My God.
Not with
That's
this minister.
Won't dare
No
to.
way. No way. It's
wow.
considered, you know, I think it's diverse and it's balanced, and that's the like the comments we got from the media. But a lot of people see it as leftist, even though, but they don't really. The problem is that most decision makers make the decisions without seeing the films. That's first of all.
Right.
But another thing is much more occupying me and my fellow colleagues, people who make films, is the concept of truth. What is truth? I mean, today the technology has reached a point that you can, in the near future, you won't be able to believe anything you see,
Right.
because you can change people's lip sync. You can put
Oh, the
anything.
AI will kill us.
Yes. So talking about truth, about documentary, I think
How can you
documentaries,
fight it?
you
How
can't.
can we fight it?
You can't fight it, and that's a very, very big challenge for all media, because people first of all see only things that strengthen their opinions. We're very, you know, it's a clear cut. You know, you see channel 14 in Israel, you can go crazy, but people are consuming it every night.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't want to be challenged by other opinions. People want to
Amazing.
strengthen their whole idea, to get tapped on the shoulder that I'm right, it's okay, I'm right. And you know, people told me it's very nice that you bring so many opinions in on your series, and people from the right, people from the left, everybody's talking. And I said, yeah, everybody's talking, but nobody's listening. And that's the problem. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the series brings to the stage a lot of people and gives them the right or the space to talk and set their opinions. But the problem of our society in general, of the human society in general, is that we don't listen to anything that is not. We've lost the ability really to talk, to have discourse.
Because when
We're
we
used to
grew up,
fight.
I'm telling you, we had common values in the country. Some of them was really maybe, I used to say, שטיפת מוח, brainwash.
Brainwash.
But doesn't
Brainwash.
matter. But at least we were all brainwashed, you know, something which in the base of it was we are young, we have to build a country, we have, you know, there were whatever you can say positive, but we shared it with everybody. Now,
But the
what do we share?
You shared it,
thing is that we
but
need to
you
change
shared it,
something
but a
about
lot of people,
education.
He's right. I shared
you
it.
shared it, but
Cannot.
so many people,
Right.
so many people felt left out, and they
Right.
felt they have to straighten
But I have
by
it in my
some kind
family
of
also.
mode
Right.
that, so it's not
We went to
that,
the
I mean,
same, you know, we went to the same elementary school.
We
There were
both were
only,
from Square Dizengoff.
there were mainly kids like us.
There were no
So,
Sephardi
yeah,
kids almost in
so then you
Square
talk
Dizengoff.
about the
but
same thing,
but
about
it
the
was
same idea.
also a very small. It was a very small country. It was a recruited country. It was, now things have changed, and I say again, all the you know, the social media, all the things that we indulge in from every minute, are even our ability to concentrate in a film, or it's gone. You know, the average concentration span of people is 54 seconds. I
So the
mean,
attention span is there. Yeah.
you're hooked to the cell phone. You're hooked to
You do
changing
5
to
things at the
TikTok.
same time.
Yeah. And you know, you have to see. There's a new documentary out in the digital of Khan, of our public television, about Bibi's campaign. And you see how this guy is a master of social media, how he knows to recruit people through social media. He knows the meanings of, he's very, very sophisticated in the whole way. He managed to, you know, overtake the formal media or the conservative media, which we're
Yeah.
all used to watching, and get to people through Facebook, through TikTok, in a masterful way.
Yeah.
And that is
Unfortunately, we
the
don't have anybody else in Israel that can do what he does.
Right.
But don't you think, you know, in terms of education, that because the focus had changed so many times, and I think that now we need to focus on to teach kids how to think for themselves, how to
yes.
develop their own inner feeling, how to
But we are
develop
going
their
back
own
now to
ideas.
just to say 9 matriculation that you have just to
Yes, 30,
learn by
12,
heart.
12.
Nobody
Yeah.
has time to teach you how to think.
But I think that there may be a hope that if Israel is going to change, the liberal camp will say, listen, we want an autonomy in regarding our education and our kids' education. We don't want religious people coming in, well, not religious personally, but with a religious ideology coming in to teach our kids. Like secular people do not teach in religious
Yeah, right.
schools, we shouldn't let our children be prey
Right.
to these conceptions of religion, of national
Talk
religion.
about two
We have to have
separate
an,
educational systems.
yeah, we have to have an autonomy, and I think that maybe one of the I think one of the things that might be an idea is to make this country in certain ways certain to Switzerland, like Switzerland, that will have some kind of autonomy to the different tribes who live here. We try to live together. We're cousins. We have a lot of in common, but each one of us has to have his space and his responsibility for his education and the way he manages his life. And I think that people here will not agree anymore that the Rabbanut and the religious people will remain to control their life and benefit
Right.
from this thing.
But
So
first
maybe that will be the
we
change.
have to acknowledge, we have to go through a process of acknowledgement. Acknowledgement to the Palestinians that, yeah, they're right. You know, their Nakba, they call, you know, they had a Nakba, but that's it. We cannot change it anymore, but we have to acknowledge. We have
But
to
before
acknowledge.
that, you
Right,
need
but
to
we have to.
redefine the Jewish state,
Right,
because
yeah,
once you
right.
define the Jewish state, and then you have to acknowledge that there is
We
occupation.
already defined it, but we have to acknowledge also
Not
the
so
kind
fast.
of how you say, what the Sephardic Israelis feel. It's right. What it was
Yeah.
many years of discrimination. We have to acknowledge, and then we have to. So we have to also we have to.
It's not for
maybe
us
we
to
should learn
acknowledge.
more
It's
Jewishness.
not for us to acknowledge. It's to accept the fact this is a few that Israel is a country that is made of a few tribes, and people I think have to decide, do they want to be part of a democratic state which will remain with Jewish heritage, or be part of a religious state. And I think we can change it probably in the municipal sector, that will, for instance, Tel Aviv or Ramat Gan, or places where there's definitely a majority of secular liberal Jews. They can be from the left or the right. They won't be under the government of the Rabbanut, for instance. Why do we have to have a Rabbanut in Ramat Gan? They can have a Rabbanut in Jerusalem, but why do we have to have these Jewish laws that affect our lives? We can have a common like infrastructure, like electricity, like water, maybe security, things like that. But in the day-to-day life,
Go
we
to
have
the
to
extreme.
change it.
A lot of secular Jews would like to keep the Saturday, the Shabbos.
Yes, but they do it in their own way. I think we should try. I think the only way to survive here and to live each one beside each other is adopting some of the manner in which Switzerland deals with its let's say democratic way of life, making cantons, making a federation that cities will be held, will be managed in
I'm
all
almost
the
crying when you
considered
talk like this.
religion,
I don't see
democracy.
Israel.
What?
I don't
You
see it
don't what?
You take away so much from my 100% commitment to Israel, because it's for
But
all
it's
of
not
us.
working. It's one of these lies that is not working. I want to live my life. I don't have a problem that a religious person will live his life, but I don't want. I don't, or an ultra orthodox. I want to be with people who believes that first and foremost we want to live in a democratic society. If there are people here, is that it's more important for them to live in a Jewish state, which is not 100% democratic. They can live their life. We can live our life. We'll be in a federation. The cities will define which way they're going, and anybody who wants to join us in a democratic state, which with Jewish heritage, which is democratic, which has a compulsory education that everybody has to learn, what we call core core studies, which is mathematics and English, and people have to work. And also, and it will be open, it will be democratic and social democratic, that will help the weak people if they accept the common factor of democratic and core studies.
Do you
And
think
everybody will.
you see that it can even happen in Israel?
You
I
know,
think there's no. I don't think we can go around. We can't go continue to live
Uri,
like that.
you'll be
There's
married
certain
many people who will tell, so why Jewish state if not Jewish, and why and if we want just Israel and no Jewish, there's so many. It raises. That's why I say you have to redefine the whole idea of the
Yeah.
Israeli state, because it doesn't work. Whatever we have till now definitely doesn't work, and the question is, how do you get to a certain group of people to manifest this and to redo it? Because the way we are now, it won't happen, because
No, but
the whole trouble is standing on a very crooked
no,
problem.
but if the liberal people here in Israel, people who believe in democracy, want to continue to live here and grow their children and their grandchildren here, they have to have basic change that will enable them for this to continue. Because if you're speaking demographically, in 30 or 40 years, what they're trying to do now with this overhaul, this reform, will be much easier, because the majority will be religious and maybe Orthodox, quite a few, and they have a right to live the way they want to live. But I think it's very hard to get the common ground, and we have to differentiate between us and them. It's not a war. I mean, we have common goals. We'll have infrastructure together. We'll have an army together. We won't be different, but it will be a federal state that enables me or people like me to live the way they believe they have to live. And it will remain, it will give the Orthodox Jews a way to live the way that they live. But every side will take responsibility on his life and his livelihood.
So
Because I
basically
don't
what
think
you're saying now, it's like what everybody said about the Judah country and Israel country. So you have
in a way,
to
a
cut
federation.
Israel to two countries, and each one will be in charge of its own.
No, it won't be two countries. It would be a federation. It would be a federation
Will
that there
never
will be general
So
aspects
it's
that will
much
be together.
easier. It's much easier because a lot of things that we have now is what you want. Separate educational system, right?
We don't have.
We don't have it. The חינוך
No,
ממלכתי.
we
It's
don't have.
It's
That's
not
one of the
religious.
things.
It's
not. It's very religious.
secular
It's very
religious.
religious. It's very religious because the people who are. I don't think that the people who manage the education ministry and deal with my kids, as an example, but people like me, I don't want them to be religious.
They are not
I don't want.
educating them religiously. There is almost no Bible anymore.
No, they are. They're implementing religious beliefs, and they're implementing religious perceptions into the secular. The secular education system is a scapegoat that everybody does what it wants with it. They have the what we call mamlachti dati, the religious and the ultra-orthodox.
But we
No
also have
secular person
mamlachti.
has
We have also
no
the public with
no
no religion.
person who is secular can teach there, and the secular system, we let everybody come in and put in the things, and there's no humanistic education in Israel, except for the elite who learn in private or semi-private schools. And I'm saying we need to have a divorce as friends. Anybody, if he's Orthodox,
There must be a shortcut.
if he's Palestinian, Israeli, anybody who wants to live in a state which is first of all and foremost democratic, and out of honor to our Jewish heritage, that's one thing. If people want a Medinat Halacha, a state of a religious state, they can live in Bnei Brak, they can live for instance, in Jerusalem and maintain their livelihood. But I think we have to have a separation
Who's going to lead it?
to continue to live together. What?
Who is going to lead it?
It will be a federation. It will be a federation.
But who is going to fulfill your vision?
Who is going to
like
fulfill?
I want you want your children to be there, get there. Not grandchildren.
I think that it will be very interesting what will happen in the next election too. What will happen? Because we'll have to do or some kind of semi-divorce, or on the other hand, have a constitution. But we can't go on like this. And in 5 or 10 years, these things, the overall, the reforms that is happening now, will happen in twice as much force. And because if these things will happen, like the right wing, and that a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people will leave the country because they don't see a future. Now people are leaving. People are leaving. Investments are running away. People who can leave are leaving. And what happened in the last 3 months is this big surge of hope of people who thought they would leave, and suddenly they're on the streets and they feel they have a power. Suddenly they see they're not some kind of pathetic minority. They're a huge bunch of people who are going to fight for their way of life. And it doesn't have to come on the expense of the Orthodox Jews' life. They can live their life. Of course, I'm a bit extreme with what I'm describing here because there's a lot of questions that are still open. What are we doing with the Palestinians? What are we doing with the
They're not
occupation?
even on the table. Nobody talk about it.
Uri,
Yeah,
we finish soon. I want to ask you something. The last few months, the outcome, what myth you think will come out of this?
We just told you. He is hopeful.
Not hopeful.
In one way, I'm hopeful because I think that the liberal population in Israel, the liberal people here, show that we have strength. That we're not just kind of we can't be pushed around all the
We
time.
have the power.
And the question is, what will become of it? Will if this thing drains away, or suddenly Bibi will change course, or suddenly we will have some deal in court? What will happen? So maybe in a year from now, it will be like COVID, like the big tent movement of 2011, like Balfour, and nobody will remember it, or there will be a substantial change here. I think it's early to say, but I think that a lot of people who said before there's no future for this place. After the last elections, people said there's no future for this place. I don't have anything to do here. I'm a minority that get pushed around, and they took full command. And suddenly, out of nowhere, this Phoenix, this Israeli liberal camp, struck into life with great force that nobody predicted. I think they were really surprised, the government, that this kind of opposition suddenly stood up. And it's not the political parties. No one of political leaders of the center and left can take any credit for what happened. They were the last to acknowledge it. They're not able to do anything without the people in the street that will agree to it, because they're in our hands. So in one hand, I'm very optimistic. On the other hand, it's very hard to predict what will happen. But I think that this is, like Guy Rolnick wrote in the market the last weekend, this is the last struggle for us. We can lose or win, but this is the last struggle of the liberals in Israel. And we'll see what will happen.
It's not optimistic for me.
No, I would have loved to join you on your
We'll call you back soon.
But realistically, we're facing something much, much worse now. And
we'll see. We'll see. It can't be worse.
Let's leave it open so at least nobody can choke when the
No, but let's say it was less optimistic 3 months ago. It was much worse 3 months ago. I don't know what will happen. I'm not a prophet. I don't know. Maybe things will the same will be the same, and this will be a scar that will erupt again. Well, on the other hand, you have to remember that 3 months ago, nobody thought that anybody would go out on the street. And suddenly this spontaneous movement was born. And it gives some kind of hope.
Yeah. What's your next project?
I usually don't talk about my projects until they materialize. It's hard. I talk to the afterwards.
But you do have an idea?
Do I have a choice? I have to,
He always has ideas.
Yeah.
We'll get to him. Uri, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're incredible.
חג שמח.
חג שמח.
חג שמח. פסח כשר.
We are going for
See you
freedom.
all next week. Bye.
Freedom for all.
Bye.